All right. So, I've come here this morning to read your minds. Right now, somebody's thinking, yeah, right. And I just want you to know I don't appreciate that vote of confidence. Not very nice of you. I can see somebody thinking about where they're going to eat for lunch. I see my husband thinking about the NASCAR race that will take place this afternoon. Okay. A few others in here thinking that as well. A few others thinking, man, I don't want to watch that. Yes, I can read your minds, and I know what you're thinking. Okay, not really. But I will say, you've seen people on TV, right, who've said, I can read minds, who call people up from the audience. They have people come up to the front, and then they ask them just a few questions, and then suddenly they can tell them about who their first date was or, first kiss, that kind of thing. Have you all seen that movie? Yeah, oh, not movies, show. Maybe you've seen that on TV. Well, according to some of the research that's done by neurologists, we are all better at reading each other's minds than we actually think. Our brains are always receiving and processing information from other people. We are looking into someone's eyes and constantly trying to think, well, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? Are they sad? Are they angry? Are they happy? Why did they smile at me like that and then walk away? And I guarantee you, before the end of the day, you will have tried it with at least 2 or 3 people that you come in contact with. Or maybe you'll just be one of those people who like to screw with people and will smile at somebody and give them a weird look and walk away just to see how they feel. We do this with everybody. We do this with our friends. We do it with our spouses, employees, fellow employees. We're always trying to find out why other people did what they did and trying to read their minds. And apparently, there's a study done among complete strangers that shows that you can do this with some level of accuracy. About 20% correctness, if that's a word. Probably not. My husband will tell me it's not a word. I make up words. So, about 20% of the time, you'll be able to tell what somebody's thinking. That doesn't seem very high. I didn't think that was a very high number. But you look at somebody, you can tell by the way their body language is, you can tell by the look and the way they say things to you. You can kind of read what they're going to say and how they're feeling. Now, among close friends or people who have been married, it goes up a little bit. So it's only about 35% of the time you're going to be able to tell how that person's feeling. I thought it would be a lot higher, but only 35%. And apparently, according to researchers, almost no one can read a person's mind more than 60% of the time. So I'm sorry, wives and husbands, but they can't read your mind all the time. And, well, that gets better because apparently if you've been married for more than a year, it shows that your accuracy actually goes down. I know. So, and the thing that they're guessing is because we stopped trying as hard. All right? So note to self, try to read your spouse's mind a little harder. Put some more effort into it, because maybe that'll make your life a little easier. So, but think about that. How much easier would your life be if you could read somebody's mind? Maybe that would make our lives harder. I don't know. But you might be able to feel out what they're feeling and actually be able to have a better conversation sometimes with some people just by having that ability to read their minds a little better. We've been in this Lent series for 3 weeks now. This is our 3rd week. And we're calling this week is Learn From Me. And we are studying exactly what we're talking about here. We're learning to read Jesus' mind. Okay, that's what he calls us to do. But he uses some different language. And it was read for us when we were reading our scripture earlier. It's from Matthew 11. So if you want to turn to Matthew, that's where we've been hanging out. And we're going to continue in that today. In Matthew, we're going to start with chapter 11 here. And we're going to jump between chapter 10 and chapter 11. But Matthew 11, 28 through 30 says this: "Come to me, or follow me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So last week, we were studying Help Me was what we were on. And in chapter 10, Jesus called his disciples out and told them that we were going to help him with preaching and healing. But then after that, a few verses after that, he gets into something that talks about into some rough times. So we left last week's message, Help Me, and really charged up. I mean, it was about, let's go out, let's go save the world for God, let's do this. And then he goes a little further and he says this in chapter 17, in verse 17 of chapter 10. They will hand you over to the local councils and flog you in the synagogues. All men will hate you because of me, but he who stands firm to the end will be saved. That's verse 22. So suddenly this idea of helping Jesus doesn't sound so woohoo. It sounds a little more dangerous than we first initially thought it might be. If we were to start to see the elevation of our journey as we're talking here about, follow me, help me, and learn from me, we're going to start to see this curve over the hill. We're cresting the hill here in a gradual descent. Because in chapter 10, verses 34 through 37, it says this, do not suppose that I have come to bring peace on to the earth. I have come to turn man against his father, a daughter against her mother. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. And anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And if you love your son or daughter more than me, you are not worthy of me. So far we've had 2 stops on our journey. Each stage is like a stage in our spiritual journey and our spiritual development. Each one is preceded by the call of Christ. We talked about in the first Sunday. He never stops calling us. He just calls us to more. The first stage was follow me, where we learned to be preoccupied with Jesus and not preoccupied with all the other stuff in our life. Okay? The second stage was help me, where Jesus asked us to we have to ask Jesus for a heart of compassion, and then to go out and help him, to preach and heal the souls of those around us, of the helpless and the harassed. Now this is the third stage. Jesus calls us to learn from him. From all appearances, this is going to be harder than we think, because we just looked about what he said about those who are going to be learning from him and helping him. There are some unexpected and unpleasant sides to learning from Jesus that require us to go out and do some things that we may not want to do. Because to learn from Jesus, to follow Jesus, to help Jesus from what he's telling us here is to be despised by the world. It's to wait in silence for him to put the right words in our mouth. It's to fear it's to fear the things we ought and nothing else. It's to trust in God that he'll take care of us when we're running out of resources. And to be devoted to Christ even more than to our spouses and our children and our parents. That's getting pretty hard. Because I love my family. I love my family a lot. But Jesus calls me to something more. Jesus calls me to love him more than them. So how many of you have ever been married or are married? Let me see you raise of hands. Okay. You're married. Think you know that person pretty well? Maybe you are in a long relationship. Maybe you think you know that person pretty well. We can be with somebody for a number of years without learning who they really are. It's possible. It's possible to be with somebody for a very long time without knowing them. When we learn someone, we are listening more than just to what they say. We're trying to get inside their head, to read their minds, to know what they think and how they see the world. When we learn someone, we are very intentional about it. And not just understanding or obeying them, but replicating them. Perhaps, you've ever had a professor or you've ever had a teacher that you thought, man, that person's got it right. That person knows what they're doing. And you may notice that some other people in their class start, reading their books. Maybe they bring up things that person says in conversations outside of the classroom. They may talk about the lectures for long periods of time when they're away from that teacher. They may go and spend time with that professor outside of the classroom to get to know how they really are without being in front of the classroom. So they're getting to know this person on a deeper level than just what they say. You watch them, you figure them out, you imitate them. You talk to others about them. Maybe you've had this experience before with a mentor or somebody that you've spent time with. Well, this is the way that disciples of Jesus should be living. We should be trying to get to know Jesus on this deeper level. We should be talking about him when we're not outside of these walls. We should be studying what he said and trying to figure out, well, why did he say that? It's good to read your Bible, but you also need to understand the context of what he was saying and why he was saying it there in that time period. So, you may get a commentary or 7. I have like 1 million. And you might study them and try to figure out why he was saying what he was saying at the time he was saying it. Do you get that? Why he was saying what he was saying at the time he was saying it. And so you go deeper into the word than just, one scripture a day, I'll pick this one. You're getting to know Jesus. You're imitating him. You're talking to others about him. And my question to you this morning is that happening in your life? Outside of these walls, are you learning Jesus? We can come here on Sunday, we can talk about it, we can study some of his word, but this is not going deeper with God. This is nice and it's corporate worship, we're all together, this is wonderful. But personally, we need to be learning him outside of here. We talked about that before. I can't make you do that. It's not my job to sit over your shoulder and say, okay, now read the book of John. That's a personal thing that we have to do. If we choose to be a disciple of Jesus, we have to go further, and we've got to get to know him. So that's the first step here, is learning Jesus. He also talks about taking up his yoke. There's more than one way to learn Jesus. It's more radical than anything he said so far. And listen to it again. It's in verses 11, 28-30. And it says, take up my yoke upon you and learn from me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. In other words, he's saying, you will learn from me when you take up my yoke. The word for taking up means to pick up, to carry, to put it on. And we heard that when Jeanette read about the Greek word for easy there means it fits well. It fits you when you put it on. The first sermon in this series, we talked about the first calling of the disciples and how they had to drop their nets and drop what they were holding and go follow Christ. And now he's telling us to take something else up. And it's his yoke. It's what he wants us to do. Now, a yoke, in case you didn't know, is a wooden frame, and it links two animals together. If you've ever seen it in history books, you've seen people plowing the fields with maybe these two animals pulling a yoke. Well, not pulling a yoke, pulling a plow, who are yoked together, okay? And it's not just lopsided. It's equal weight distribution so that they can have more power to pull what they're pulling. So when you are yoked with Jesus, you're not alone, okay? He is right there with you. And if you put that collar on your neck, you notice that it fits. It's easy. Now, easy for you and me means something different, okay? No, life with Jesus is not always easy. But you're not alone. And he's right there with you. I don't know what the yoke God has asked you to put on. I don't know what he's asked you to do in your life. And I don't know if you felt that nagging in your heart before of God telling you to do something, to take up something. I guarantee you he wants you to do something. But that's between you and the Lord. For me, it was doing what I'm doing right now. And God asked me to become an officer. Not asked me, he told me I was going to become an officer. And frankly, that was the scariest thing he could have ever said to me. You want me to be a veterinarian, Lord? You got it. I'll go to vet school. But then he asked me to go and be an officer. And at the time, I was very frightened of that. Everything, when the Lord asks you to do something, no matter what it is, I guarantee you it doesn't look all rosy and sunny from the outside. But that's the beauty of it. Because once you get in there, put yourself in that collar, you realize it's not as bad as you initially thought. Because you're not alone. Because he's with you. And he doesn't ask you to eat, what do they say? Don't eat the whole tamale all at once. You don't eat it all at once. My husband is shaking his head at me. I've heard that before. You eat it. You eat it slowly, bit by bit. You take one day at a time, right? One step at a time. It's not the whole thing all at once. Okay? So it's not as scary as you initially thought. Now, is it easy? No. Not easy. There are days when you want to pull your hair out. But that's when you got to remember who's beside you. That's when you got to remember that you don't pull this weight alone. And it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. Even on the days when you feel frustrated and out of whack, in the end, it's totally worth it. Because who are you serving? You're serving God. You're serving Jesus. And he will get you through any situation that life can throw at you, no matter what it is. Totally worth it. So this morning, I am going to say to you, if you felt the nagging, the nagging at your soul of what am I supposed to do? If the Lord is pulling you towards a direction, I don't, know what that direction is. I don't know if it's officership. I don't know if it's, to go out and start a soup kitchen, or if it's to go out and evangelize to the people at your school or your job or whatever it is. If you feel that nagging, you got to do it. It's no time. We can make excuses all over, and I'll tell you, I made every excuse in the book before I finally said, okay, God, whatever you want. And what was I fighting against? My own stubbornness? It's not my job to fight against that. It's my job to listen. It's my job to help him. It's my job to follow him. It's my job to learn from him. So this morning we're going to sing a song. Matthew's going to lead us in it. And I want to ask you if there's something greater or bigger or more than just what you want to do in your life that God is calling you to. And I want you to take this moment. We do this every Sunday. We have this moment where we have the altar call. We have a time where you can just come here and lay it all out there in front of the Lord. Because who knows if the rest of the week somebody will ask you, is there anything bigger in your life? Who knows if the rest of the week somebody will say, is there something you need to talk to God about? So this is a chance. And you can do it on your own. You don't have to do it here. But this time is available. So as we're singing this song, I invite you to come, pray here. Bring somebody with you. And just talk to the Lord. And ask him to come and show you in your life where he wants you to go.